I want to go across to Abhijit Iyer Mitra first. Abhijit, I read the indictment put out by the US Justice Department. There are very specific audio recordings, WhatsApp messages, supposed videos which we can't see but are referred to in the indictment, which show that this raw official was in contact with those involved in a plot to kill Pannun in New York. Now, is this just rank, amateur, ham-handed action of one junior level field operative who went loose and did crazy things and got caught? Or because America alleges that this is a larger conspiracy to try and target those who are antithetical to India, living abroad, and to eliminate them. What do you think is at play?
So Rahul, first of all, to answer your question, I have to ask you a counter question. Do you know this gentleman? His name is Kiran Patel.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who he is?
Go on, tell us.
He stayed at the Srinagar Raj Bhavan, possibly the most guarded building in India, for 6 months, claiming he was a PMO special officer. And it turned out he was a nobody. He was a doctor from Gujarat and he was impersonating somebody from the PMO. So understand, this is a country where you can impersonate anybody and get away with anything. At one point of time, Prabhakaran and several senior IPKF leaders were in the custody of the IPKF. LTT leaders were in the custody of the IPKF. And all that happened was there was a call, PMO has said release him, and they were released. And the PMO had never ordered that call. So in India, anybody can pretend to be anyone. Now the question is, was he acting alone, or are the Americans right and it's part of the larger conspiracy? If this is part of a larger conspiracy, Rahul, I have seen absolutely no proof. There is proof that this gentleman is coordinating attacks in America, but there is absolutely no proof other than that of any connection to or orders from anywhere else. Remember, the very fact that this gentleman boasts that, I got Niger, well, he didn't say I got Niger killed, but Niger and everything else. This is usually the braggadocio you see a lot in government in India. It isn't new. It's not just in government, by the way. It's across the board. I want to see, do I believe Vikas Yadav did something? Yes. Do I believe it's a larger government conspiracy? I haven't seen any proof and I want to see that.
Okay. Yashowardhan Azad, you've been in the Intelligence Bureau. I have many contacts, friends in IB, many in RAW. RAW is usually a highly competent and professional agency, and their officials are very fine analysts. There's absolutely no doubt. This Vikas Yadav seems to have been like this gung-ho, I think I'm James Bond, but actually I'm not. He's calling people himself. If he's a RAW agent, which he was, calling would-be assassins himself from his own phone, leaving a digital footprint, talking about what's happening. He's getting a video of the Niger killing. He's forwarding it to his contact. I mean, this guy seems as amateur can be. I mean, how can this guy be a serious RAW official, and why was he even in New York for the research and analysis wing?
Well, yes, normally operations are not conducted like this, such a ham-handed manner. There's no doubt about it. But, why are we discussing this when government has already said that this man has been, relieved? And the point you're asking is that whether there is a larger, command or conspiracy behind it. I mean, Americans have no business to ask that even. There is, they have come to the level of Vikas Yadav, and Vikas Yadav has been relieved. The other thing which I want to point out is that Vikas is a fool because Vikas should have realized that if you hit any American terrorist anywhere, it becomes an issue of human rights, right? But if the Americans kill anyone they designate terrorist from Afghanistan to Syria, any poor country, then it's a terrorist killing. So this is the mistake which was made by this Vikas Yadav. Otherwise, tell me, Rahul, if there is an American terrorist called Pannun who's threatening the Indian Prime Minister, who's giving money $1 lakh to have a Khalistani flag on the Red Fort, NIA has prepared one of the finest dossiers I can tell you with some information. Finest dossier. And despite that, if it's a question of human rights, just because he's an American citizen, he's not been expatriated, no proceedings are being taken against him. So a junior level officer attempted this. I will not even say it is bad or good. I will say it has been done at that level. Government found out and they have relieved. That is my explanation for this.
Colonel Ajay Shukla, where do you come out on this? Because this is typically not how the RAW operates. It seems to be an aberration because you've got this one official who's left so much digital fingerprint that anybody who understands anything about spycraft will be shocked by how amateur this official is. Was he an official gone rogue, or do you think there's a larger conspiracy which needs to be examined carefully?
I think there is definitely a larger conspiracy. This is not one officer who has gone rogue and does not have support from either his organization or colleagues and former people who have worked with him. So the important point to remember here is that Khalistan and Khalistani sort of forces and proponents have been around in Canada for a very long time. It is actually quite remarkable that you've had a country which has lost an airliner with hundreds of people on board, and which has these people who were part of that conspiracy coming and going from the mother country, that's India, and still walking free. As my sort of co-panelists have pointed out already, this is not something which is usually done or usually takes place. So we've got a large number of Indian diaspora members, including many Sikhs living in the US. We have many living in Canada, but it is Canada which is the source of terrorism flowing towards India. And it is the Canadian sort of Sikh community is quite united in at least one respect, and that is the demand for Khalistan. So it's such a murky playing field, this whole thing. Somebody who was working for the US, and this sort of brings back the Mumbai killings in a certain way. Working for the US as an agent of one of its secretive agencies, coming and turning out to be sort of the agent of a very, very dangerous and sort of damaging killing. So I think we have to see this in the larger sort of perspective. You have the Canadians, you have the US, you have India, and given the strength of the Five Eyes intelligence grouping, of which Canada, US, UK, Australia, and New Zealand are a part, India does not have too much of a chance of having those agencies on its side when the interests of one of those five agencies is at stake.
Sushant Sareen, typically RAW officials undergo years of training, whether it's expertise in Pakistan, China, the United States, whatever is their area of specialization, they train very hard. There's a shortage of officers in the Cabinet Secretariat, and therefore you're now bringing in officers on deputation from forces like the CRPF, which could create questions around whether there is adequate indoctrination, training, techniques, because these are people who've been trained in CIOps, counterinsurgency, or fighting Naxals, and are suddenly sent on important sensitive international assignments, potentially applying techniques which they may have used successfully against Naxals, against international targets. Is that really what went wrong over here, or do you think this is just an aberration? We need to examine the larger conspiracy of why the US is making all of this public.
Rahul, you keep talking about the larger conspiracy. As far as I am concerned, the larger conspiracy which I want to unveil is why are the Americans and the Canadians so soft on these Khalistani separatists? Are they assets of the American and Canadian establishments? What is the reason why, despite constant representations by India, and as Mr. Azad has just listed out, very comprehensive dossiers being given to them, they don't act against these guys? And Justin Trudeau lied during his testimony yesterday when he says that whenever the Indians have given us something, we've always taken action. He should please tell us what action he has taken against a single one of these Khalistani terrorists. But to come back to your main question, look, assuming for the sake of argument that this was a planned operation and that somebody had instructed this gentleman, Mr. Yadav, to try and get hold of or eliminate India's enemies who are being protected by foreign governments. This is something the Americans do all the time. And for them to pretend that they have some kind of exceptionalism, that their rule of law and the safety of their citizens is more precious than the safety of India and Indian citizens, I'm sorry, I don't accept it. An American white man's life or a brown man or a American Sikh's life is not more precious than an Indian Sikh's life or an Indian's life. Okay, let's be very clear about it. So they don't enjoy any exceptionalism on this, and certainly not the Canadians. But let us assume that for the sake of argument that this was an operation which was handed out to this guy. Look, operations go wrong.
No.
Right? Maybe it was bad tradecraft. Maybe the man fouled up. Maybe he was very gung-ho and he thought, this operation is like what maybe cops in India can do and get away with. Maybe that was the case. I don't know. I'm not privy to that. But operations sometimes go wrong. My question is, okay, fine. Maybe Indians stepped out of the line and did something. Why are the Americans doubling down on this the way they are doing? What are they trying to prove? And I want to seriously ask this question, because you can't want to have a strategic relationship with India at one level and strategically undermine India at another level, which is precisely what they are trying to do. And for somebody to pretend that either the RCMP is, God's gift to Canada or to mankind, that each one of their investigations is so good, which we saw how they botched up the Kanishka Air investigations, or the American FBI, which has not been able to track down the people who have attacked the Indian consulates or who have attacked Hindus in Hindu temples in Canada, in the United States, they have not been able to track these guys down or crack down on people who have threatened Indian airlines.